Hey everybody, welcome to Nothing But the Truth. I'm Sharrie Ryan, your host, and today I am talking to Traci and Chris Brumbles of Deer Island, Oregon, and we welcome you guys.
Thank you.
Yes. They have a story to tell, and I really just wanted to get this out. Chris was recently admitted to St. John's Peacehealth Hospital over in Longview, Washington, which we all know is just right across the river. That's where we go for many emergencies and such, because we don't have our own hospital in Columbia County. And so, Chris, can you tell us a little bit about what prompted you? What happened? Why did you have to go to the hospital?
Well, I went out and mowed the lawn and I came in, everything was fine. And all of a sudden my chest tightened up. And so first I thought it was a heart attack. And so I took one of those heart pills and I started doing some reading because I noticed it was when I was breathing in that it hurt and clamped down even more. So I started doing all these natural remedies because I figured I thought I had pleurisy or pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
And the second day, I actually got some antibiotics in case it was pneumonia. And the second day, it only hurt from about halfway over to the left. But the third day, I woke up and it was all the way the chest and the back everywhere. So I thought, well, we better go to the hospital. So I'm reaching, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
then you proceeded to go over to St. John's. And really quick, I wanted to ask Traci, before you went there, what was it that you called them for?
I called to make sure that you didn't have to have a negative COVID vaccine or negative COVID test, before we brought Chris in.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go unless if you had to take a COVID test, I wasn't going to go.
Right.
Okay.
So we asked. And they said,
and
no,
so you get this okay from the doctor. This is something that you really, felt firmly about. You're like, if he has to take a COVID, test and have a result of a negative COVID test, we don't want to go in. And so you called, you asked before you went, they said no. And so then you let's go over like a timeline of kind of what happened as you got over there. You get to the ER, and as soon as you get to the ER, what did they say about that COVID test?
Well, they didn't say anything yet. When they figured out I had to go into the hospital, the guy walks in, and nurse, I guess it was, and says, "Oh, here we got your COVID test to take." I said, "I'm not taking that." And then, as I reiterated, I'm not taking it. All of a sudden, the room, instead of 2 people there was 4 or 5 or 6. All of a sudden, it's like everybody's coming. They were so worried I had COVID that they were all coming in. And I told the guy, I said, "I do not have COVID." And he said, "I know, but it's our policy." So he knew I didn't have COVID, but yeah, let's go ahead and give you a test so we can get more money from the government, basically.
Right. You get there. They said you didn't have to. Then they're saying, okay, now that we're going to admit you into the hospital because we need to bring you in, you're suffering here a lot. Is that we need to swab you. And you're like, no, I don't want to do that. And then all these other people come in. And so what happened as far as, then they asked you to wear a mask?
Well, they said that, well, you will have to be quarantined then. You have to be isolated.
Isolated.
I said, I don't have to listen to other people snore and fart. I'm fine with that. Then they said, your family won't be able to see you. I said, well, that's a bunch of baloney and that's retaliation. Excuse me. Still got a little bit of stuff here.
So we were in ER for 4 hours before they even threw in the COVID, the COVID test or anything like that. So we had sat there together in this room with people in and out for 4 hours prior to that.
So when they wanted to wheel me to the room, they said, "You got to wear a mask." I said, "I don't wear masks." I said, but let me back up a little. When he said that you have to take a COVID, I did offer to, I said, "I'll spit on it. You're not sticking that up my nose." And he said, "Well, that doesn't work." And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. It does work." But evidently
you had told me that something about your friend had gone through that.
His son had a deviated septum. He wouldn't allow him to stick that in his nose. And he said he would spit it. They said they couldn't. And then they found a place in Salem that absolutely does test your spit. and they won. So I don't know if it's a court. I don't think I ever went to court, but they won some kind of a case, and we're going to get that for you.
And I'm gonna refer to that in the end. I'm gonna put a link into that, because you're giving them information. You're saying, I don't need to have this test administered through my nose. I will spit and you can test that, right? And then they're like, okay, because you won't do this, we're going to have you in isolation in the ICU.
Right.
And then, and you can't see your family, even though, like you had told me, they have a sign on the door at the ICU that says what?
1 visitor per day.
Right? There's no stipulation to that. There's no, question to that. And so then you're not going to take the test. So they're like, you're in isolation. And then they're like, okay, you need to wear a mask. And what did you say?
I don't wear masks. And so I said, I carry a plastic face shield. I said, I'll wear that, but I'm not wearing a mask. I said, I can't breathe anyways. I can't believe you're asking me to wear a mask.
You're in there because basically, what did they diagnose you with? Pneumonia.
AFib, and took them 3 more days to find that I had pneumonia too. But I had AFib going. My heart was beating 180 times a minute.
Oh my gosh, Chris, dear Lord. So you get admitted into this ICU room, okay? Yes. And you're isolated. Tell me about that room real quick.
Well, the room is the most uncomfortable bed I've ever been on. I mean, it was probably a $10,000 bed. It moved everywhere and everything, but it was just hard as a rock. And you could feel the bars underneath it. And I asked them, why is these beds so uncomfortable? And they said, well, because usually people are unconscious when they're on it. It's like they don't have to be comfortable, I guess. And I noticed there was no shower. There was no restroom.
Oh my goodness. So you're in isolation in a room. that is not very warm and fuzzy room. You're like,
you have jugs if you have to pee, but you have nothing for the other end. And
oh my goodness.
Basically they explained they would have to wheel a chair over that has a thing under it and go right out there in front of everybody. I mean, they did have a curtain you could pull, but basically
no privacy.
No dignity. It was disgusting.
Oh my gosh.
And they kept the room at 72 degrees, and I kept asking them to turn it down. They kept saying they tried, but they couldn't. And so you're sweating the whole time. And so you have to take showers basically with baby wipes, and which doesn't do that good of a job. But I just thought it lacked dignity. That was my opinion on it.
Because they're putting you in isolation because you won't take the COVID test the way that they want to administer it, even though you told them, I can give it to you another way. And they didn't want to do that.
It was all about the test. It was all about the test. And of course, they sent people in every single day trying to convince me to take this thing. And I told them it's not going to happen. And they just kept being insistent. And then when the 4th day came, I'd been talking to friends a friend of ours was a nurse she took some training over there for COVID, and supposedly their policy is if you are isolated for COVID, it's 5 days. So I told the doctor, tomorrow's going to be 5 days. So you have to let me out of here anyways, right? She goes, nope, you're going to stay here until you take the test. So it was all about control. There's obviously, if you've done the time and you're not showing any signs of COVID, you don't have COVID, right?
Yeah. And this was, day 5 that this doctor is saying this to you, like, you're not until you take that test. And you had already been asked, like you said, by every day, the nurse that comes in to take care of you to, check your blood pressure and give you, meds and this, they're asking you every day. What did they ask you? Do you want to take the test?
Take the COVID test. Well, and there was one nurse that came in and tried to trick me. I believe she said, I got your swab to check for MRSA. I said, no, I'm not going to take a swab up my nose. I already told you that. And then I did some reading, and they actually check for MRSA by rubbing cotton on your skin. And my nurse friend again told me that everybody has MRSA up their nose. And what I've read on the internet, at least 1 out of 3 people do. but that doesn't mean you're gonna get sick. I mean, everybody has it.
They carry it.
So it was a trick, I believe, to get me to take a COVID test, which is a ball-faced lie. I don't want that from my doctor.
You did not have any food served to you. So Traci, you were like, okay, day 3, we're going to get some food in. And what happened? Can you give us like a picture of what happened when you went in? Because you were also trying to get information about Chris's care, because no one would answer your call. You would leave messages and no one would call you back. And can you give us a little bit of that exchange about what happened when you went in to try to get him some food?
So I buzzed the ICU. The nurse came to the door. I told her I'm here to see my husband in room 303, Chris Brumbles. Mm-hmm. And she said, he is in isolation. You can't see him. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I have clean clothes for him and food for him. Mm-hmm. And she said, just a minute. She went back. She came back to the door after a few minutes, opened it up, took my bags, and we had another exchange about I couldn't go into the room. And I said, I understood that I couldn't go into the room because of his isolation, but I can see him through the glass. I said, I know there's glass doors and glass windows around him. I can at least see my husband. I want to see my husband. Yes. And she said, well, he won't take a COVID test. And I said, I understand that there's other ways you can do the COVID testing. And anyway, she finally led me back. Didn't really say boo to me, ignored me. I talked to Chris, I got to see him, and then I left. And that was the third day. That was the third day.
Okay. Oh my goodness. So what do you guys kind of, that same doctor that had said to you, we're not going to let you, go until you take this test, basically, had been the doctor that was like, another thing that she had said to you was, you just need to get over it.
Yeah.
Right.
She's a Russian. She's from the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
You can't understand her anyway, broken English, and she's wearing a mask. You can't even understand what she says. And, no, and
these are the doctors.
It became a battle of wills between me and her, because she kept trying to get me to do things I don't want to do. And I told her I wasn't going to do them. And then she would stomp out every time we had an exchange. So I think she finally quit being my doctor toward the end, but I'm not certain. That's what because I told everybody that she was fired, and they said she was going to get me a different doctor anyways, but I don't know if it ever took place.
Chris and Traci, you guys have been through quite an ordeal, not just with Chris's health, but just with this situation that happened. And we hear many stories of this happening, throughout our state, of different, being treated a certain way from hospital caregivers and from our healthcare. What would be like your synopsis of how you were treated, Chris and Traci?
I think it was bullied, but I'm a bully killer, so it doesn't bother me. But I think it was bullied. I think they had an agenda, and it wasn't my health. It was to make money off the government by getting me to take a test.
And I feel it was very discriminatory on the treatment.
Absolutely.
To the point where they wouldn't even look at me coming in through the doors, didn't acknowledge or answer return phone calls when I was trying to get information on Chris's situation.
Now I got to say the cardiologist, great guy. Most of the nurses pretty good. There's just a couple doctors, and maybe one or two nurses that give you the eye and all this. But I can care less what those people think.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we own our body. It is our health. If we don't want something stuck in our nose, or we don't want what they call a vaccine that day, shot in our body, we have every right to say no. And if it was truly about the COVID, well, like I said, that one guy said that, well, we know you don't have COVID, but it's our policy. So, it ain't about COVID, it's about control. If it was truly about COVID, when I said, well, tomorrow's 5th day and the quarantine's up, no, you're staying here until you take a swab. It wasn't about COVID. It wasn't about my health. It was about them making money off of welfare from the government because of this test. And that has now become predominant over the healthcare of people, in my opinion.
Yes.
I really, really appreciate you guys sharing your story and your account of what happened when you were in the hospital, Chris. And bless you. And I'm glad that you're on your road to recovery and healing. And I just want to share this, with others because, we need to get the truth out, nothing but the truth. We need to look at the facts and look what is really happening in our state and in our communities. And so I really appreciate that. And I look forward to hearing to what, next steps are and what happens after this. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. You have a great one.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye-bye.